Everything you do, every choice you make, every decision in your training room should be about how does this improve the learning. It's the only reason to do anything once you walk through that door, whether it's drawing pictures, using humour, getting people to do activities, asking questions. Everything is about supporting the learning of your group. There's nothing else that's important. The reason I say it's quite difficult sometimes to get general principles is I find the more reading I do these days about learning, the more confusing the whole thing gets. Because you come across a lot of things, like talk about learning styles. I'll talk about learning styles in a while. I don't talk about learning styles anymore. Because learning styles were the big thing at some point. Everyone sort of comes along and suddenly think, oh, learning styles, people learn in all sorts of different ways, that's interesting. Every model of learning styles you'll ever come across, there will be somebody saying, it's rubbish that, you don't take any notice of that. Yeah. And there's a whole industry now grown up, almost challenging every model of learning styles. Somebody will take it apart and say, well, where's the basis for that? No scientific basis. You can get to a point where you're just so confused, you think, well, I don't know what to do. Does this make any sense? So I'm just going to stick to what I think are fairly practical things that are generally accepted and say, what does that mean for you as trainers? There's a huge amount of interest these days in, like I said, brain-friendly learning and neuroscience. And some of that is very useful and helpful. Some of it isn't. Some of it, again, if you look through some of the forums on LinkedIn, there's a lot of discussion about developments in neuroscience and different parts of the brain and what they do. My question is always, how does that help me in a practical sense? I'm only interested in that if it makes a difference to what I can do in a training room and help people to learn more effectively. I don't care particularly where the corpus callosum is or how that, or the frontal lobes. Particularly, I'm not going to be a brain surgeon. I'm a trainer. I just want people to learn more effectively. So is that telling me something that's of practical value? And sometimes it isn't. And one of the reasons I like the Kolb cycle still is that it's useful for designing training. So a simple way to design effective training is to try and see if you've got all 4 parts of that cycle built into your training session or training event, whatever it is. So you've got to build in some sort of experience that people are doing the thing that you're talking about, if possible. They've got to reflect on it. You've got some time for reflection, some time to sort of form theories and connections and think about how that works, and some time to plan and think, what does that mean for me? What am I going to do differently next time? All your training, I would suggest, is about changing people's behaviour. Training, I'll come back to this when we talk about content, but training is not about giving people information. It's about what they do with that information. How does it change their behaviour? If it's not going to change their behaviour, why do they need the information? Everything of value that happens, again, write this down, this is important, because I might forget it again, and I want to put it in my next book. Everything of value that happens in the training room happens in your learners' heads. All the internal processes, that's where the learning takes place. It's not to do with what you're doing. You do what you do to set up that internal process. And that's what's happening here. All this needs to be going on in their heads. The times at which you step back, stop talking, stop giving them stuff, and let them do that reflection is where that's where the money is, if you like. That's where all the important work is going on. Lots of different ways you can use this. Speech bubble out of here. Thought bubble here. God, dear. Of course, I can't use this anymore now because everybody's going to use it and people will be going, oh, we've seen that. I've used this for lots of things. He's saying something, she's thinking something. So introducing lots of things. Yesterday I was doing this course on successful meetings. So I had, the person was saying, I don't feel like doing any work today, I think I'll call a meeting. And she's thinking, oh, great. Or I've done ones on performance appraisals, performance management, where he's saying something, oh, it's time for your annual review, and she's thinking, oh, great, another waste of time, or something like that. You can use that for multiple things. Or delegation, oh, I've just left a file on your desk, and she's thinking, actually, she always seems to be thinking, oh, great. But, what an idiot. So you can just write, what an idiot, in this one, and he can be saying almost anything, basically. And she could be thinking, I don't know why I married you in the first place.